All right, welcome back to the final video of our tier ranking. Sauropelta, very unique creature with a very long, weird tail and big old shoulder spikes. His armor is not as turtle shelly as the Polacanthus, which is nice. We saw some colors and patterns that looked pretty decent last time we had this in a park. But it still doesn't do that much for me. It's all right. Yeah, the Ketz has some pretty good stats. The Ketz is a good dinosaur in game for the most, or a good creature in game for the most part. But we're not letting that influence our decisions too heavily. I think the Sauropelta pulls ahead of Polacanthus in my rankings now. After the last park build, I think it's a little bit better looking. But I still like Notosaurus a lot more, I think. Dinosaur colloquially refers to any creature in the game, but yes, it's not a dinosaur, of course. Scorpius Rex. He's a weird boy. Some interesting colors here. That pattern, that's pretty sick. We never use this, but the coloring on the quills is cool. He's a weird dude, for sure. It's a hybrid, which sucks. This is the best hybrid, though, by a decent gap. I this is my favorite hybrid. I think he's just under the Dimorphodon near the top of D tier. He's still a weird hybrid, and I'm never going to use him. And his limbs are weird, but I do like his malformed pug dog face. And I like what the patterns do with the quills and the back like plates. This part is all good. Just this part's bad. Sinoceratops. This design is illogical and completely nonsense and crazy, and looks nothing like a Sinoceratops, and I love it because he's chunky and he's great. Pretty good colors. The patterns are subtle, but they do add some nice colors to the frill here, although it remains a little too subtle. Bafflingly expensive to get in the game, but I do like me a Sinoceratops. Somewhere he belongs here near the bottom S tier somewhere. I'm struggling with the position a little bit. I really do like this thing's colors too in the franchise. The holes in the frill is just baffling, and like the horns are like really exaggerated over what a Sinoceratops should look like. I can't go ahead of the Dinochirus. I think I'm going to put it ahead of the Iguanodon, though, which feels like a betrayal of the Iguanodon. But sorry, Iguanodon, your colors are just really bad. Sinoceropteryx. This little dude with his real-life color palette. Fantastic stuff. Good stuff. Love it. Good range of colors. Pattern doesn't do that much, but it's fine. It's perfectly reasonable. Great little dude. Love me a Sinoceropteryx. Boop. He goes right with his little fellow scavengers in S tier. I like the Oviraptor slightly more, I think. And that's winning on like aesthetic reasons only. We're talking like accuracy, Sinoceropteryx wins hands down, but I like the tail fan. We don't get enough tail fans. A raccoon skin. I mean, they're all kind of raccoon skins. I mean, I guess the best you do is like something like that, where the striping on the body doesn't show up as much, and then it's very raccoon-like. Fantastic. Spinosaurus. I've never been terribly fond of the Spinosaurus in the franchise. JP3 doesn't do that much for me. Spinosaurus doesn't do that much for me, but I do like Spinosaurids. But Baryonyx is really my Spinosaurid of choice at the end of the day. Good colors, though. We don't use this much. The pattern here, it's like the face and the sail. Pattern's kind of underwhelming. Yeah, the red and black is really nice. That is a good look for sure. It's also scientifically inaccurate, but that's fine. It's JP3. It's like whatever. It's better than the Giga. This has to be B tier, I think, by virtue of that alone. I would rather have a Pachycephalosaurus in a park than a Spinosaurus. I think it goes here ahead of the Urano. Stale boys unite, I guess. Controversial, I'm sure. Stegosaurus. This skin sucks. This model sucks. The scales are weird. It's no good. This one's nice, though. This I like. This needs to be a proper variant. Unfortunately, as much as I like this design, it's pretty boring. And the colors are much more interesting on the crappy Jurassic World style design. Like, look at those plates. That's beautiful. Those are pretty cool. This is going to be a hard one to place. If we could just take the color palette and swap it to the Lost World model, we'd be doing work. I think this has to be placed very similarly to how we placed the Anki. I think the color palettes are better overall than the Ankylosaurus, so I think it sneaks just ahead of it. This is very much a case of like, if we could do the patterns, or take like the patterns for the Anki, the JP3 Anki, make that the standard, that'd be great, and then have variants on that. Again, here, if we could take the Lost World body and take the world patterns and put it on the body, then we'd be talking. Both of those can easily move up a tier if they're ever given proper variants. But for now, I think they're stuck in C tier because just the best version of each of these is a singular movie skin that you can't do anything with. And that's very disappointing. The amount of missed potential on the Stegosaurus is astounding. Like this is a really nice looking Stegosaurus skin in terms of colors, and just this model, like the scales suck. It's just, ew. His face is kind of bad. He needs a proper beak. There's some beakiness going on there, but it's not good. It's not good. He needs this proper beak, and just doesn't have it. It's no good. Struthiomimus. This is the best Ornithomimosaur. Good colors, good patterns. The pattern's simple, but it's got some good variation. I like his little skull cap he's got there of color. That's always fun. I'm very fond of the Struthiomimus. I'm very, very fond of this little fella. I don't think we can put him in S tier though. Oh, did I scroll down here? Whoops, I did. Oh no, everything's ruined. When did I do that? Well, it's fine. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, I think the Struthiomimus is high A tier. I'm very tempted to put it into S, but it doesn't quite make it. But it is my favorite out of Gallimimus, Archaeornithomimus, and Struthiomimus. I'm going to put him ahead of Mutta. He wins some points. If we get an Ornithomimosaur that's feathered properly, like with wings and a nice tail fan, that'll be like an easy S tier for me. Like, give me the prehistoric planar Ornithomimus with like the awesome fucking hairdo. That thing would be so high in S tier. It's such a good design. No, it really is. No, this is a non-sarcastic ranking for Struthiomimus. I think it's got the best design in the game for what we have. Like, proper little beak. Does he have teeth? Looks like he's got teeth, which sucks. But he's got more of a beak shape to his face, at least, than like the Gallimimus does, which I like. The pattern's way more interesting. And then the body shape doesn't have the weird fatness of the Archaeornithomimus, which is why he wins. I just have a fondness for it, stemming from the first game till even now. Stygimoloch. He's got a weird fat head. The color palette's not bad. The pattern's okay. He's not a real dinosaur. He is a franchise dinosaur, but he doesn't do much for me. His inclusion is just strange in the franchise as well. Um, there's some temptation to put him into D tier because he's almost like a cartoon character, but I don't hate him that much. I think he's probably a mid C tier. The color palette is pretty good. Maybe right after these two carnivores. I think we put him there. I think he comes ahead of the Dimetrodon for me. Where do we put the Pachycephalosaurus? Yeah, okay, so yeah, that feels right. Dracorex, Pachycephalosaurus, Stygimoloch. That's the correct ordering. They're all in separate tiers. That seems fine. And then Homocephaly ended up being also A tier, but lower than Draco. That's correct. That is all objectively correct. Styracosaurus. This guy, Styracosaurus is a awesome dinosaur. Like, in real life. The development of the horns on the frill is fascinating. The individual variation between fossils is just really, really interesting. I suggest watching some Styracosaurus videos. Look at like Your Dinosaurs Is Wrong, I think has a Styracosaurus video that's got a lot of interesting stuff in it. There is Dead Sounds, got a dedicated cartoon of Styracosaurus, which is not scientifically interesting, but it's just fucking cool. Check that stuff out. I love Styracosaurus. The pattern is pretty good. We get a lot of interesting like eye spots on the frill. What it does to the back here is not bad. Like you can get some interesting color combos where like you get some kind of crusty, almost burnt look like pattern to this that I think works for me. I love Styracosaurus. This is a great design. S tier. I think he goes somewhere in here, right around these other herbivores, I think. No, he goes up here. He sneaks out of the Coelophysis right after the Sinosauropteryx. Styracosaurus is aces. Best Ceratopsian in the game. Styxosaurus. It's interesting. The Styxosaurus also looks very snaky, but not in like the ridiculous way the Plesiosaurus looks. I don't know how I feel about the neck fins. Looks like they're kind of tattered. He's got the upside of having pretty distinctive patterns, including bioluminescence. A really good palette. Like the Styxosaurus is a damn fine creature. This is our best Plesiosaurid. Yeah, Stygimoloch is not technically a valid species anymore. Well, so the thing with Stygimoloch is Stygimoloch might be a separate subspecies of Pachycephalosaurus, though. Right? Stygimoloch spinifer might actually be Pachycephalosaurus spinifer, separate from Dracorex and Pachycephalosaurus wyomingensis. Dracorex, completely invalid, but Stygimoloch has a chance to survive not as a different species, but not as a different genus, but as a different species or whatever. Yeah, we'll do Suchomimus in a second. You shouldn't be disappointed. So the Styx, I think I like the Chrono better because the Chrono's color palettes really worked for me, but I think the Styx is like right there with it. This is definitely a B tier aquatic for sure, right? Like we get like 1 A tier, we get like 3 B tiers. That seems correct for the aquatics in my opinion. Like if these things did more and felt better to use in a park, they'd probably go up, which is maybe unfair to them, but I don't care about aquatic reptiles, like scientifically speaking. Pterosaurs are cool and closely related to dinosaurs, and aquatic reptiles are just different branches of things that are doing their own thing, and I don't care that much. In fact, Alamosaurus deserves to be ahead of you, I think. Suchomimus. Good colors, good pattern. We get the website pattern buried in here, but it's not the default for some reason. Actually, like the bright yellow is kind of missing. This is the closest you get, which isn't quite the bright yellow we used to have in the first game from the website design, but it's close. I mean, this is essentially the website Suchomimus, more or less. This is the best Spinosaurus design we have in the game for accuracy. And I like it as well. I am still very fond of the Baryonyx, but I have to objectively say that this one is better. Like, he's missing the big fishing claw. Let's leave. We're gonna put him here at the bottom of A, but this is not a final thing. I just want to pop back to the game here for a second. Like, he doesn't have the big fishing claw that the Baryonyx has, but as I understand it, that's actually just true of Suchomimus. I haven't looked into that, but I saw a reference to that somewhere, so that's interesting. So I like my ideal thing would be a Baryonyx in the quality and style of the Suchomimus, with the heavy claw being actually a thing you can notice. But yeah, this is a good design. This has to be like on the same level as the Metri, I think. Like, this is where he goes for me. I like the Metri more, but he's right here at the tippy top of A tier. Suchomimus is great. If he was a Baryonyx, he'd sneak up into S tier with that design. You just give him the big Baryonyx claw and make him a Baryonyx, and then he's S tier. But Suchomimus is just less interesting to me as an animal than Baryonyx. That's just the truth. Tapejara. It's a crime that this thing is not a fruit eater in game. Very distinctive profile. Pretty good colors. Yeah, look at that one. Look at the pinks. Like the vein pattern on the wings is way better than the splotches we get on a lot of other dudes. That's a watermelon and a half. That's pretty good. Not my favorite pterosaur, but that is a solid one. Where did everything else end up? So we got 2 in A tier, Geolopterus and Kets. Or an S tier. A tier, we got Marodactylus, which I'm just oddly fond of. A lot of A tier dinosaurs are things I'm like oddly fond of that don't look the best in the game that they could. We've still got Trovognathus, Cerodactylus in B tier. This is a B tier design. I'm more fond of the Cerodactylus for like the franchise connotations, but I mean, this thing's design might be better, but I also don't really care about Tapejara. I think it goes there. I think that's where the Tapejara goes. It's a solid enough design. It's one of the better pterosaurs, but yeah. Therizinosaurus. The frontier colors are wild, but you can still get some very natural looking ones if you work at it. And I think that's kind of a good way to do things. The Therizinosaurus scene is the only good scene in Jurassic World Dominion. It's a good scene, actually, which is astounding. I'm quite fond of it as a creature in general, and I don't hate this design. Where does it go? Where does it go? This might be an S tier design for me, honestly, but low S. I like it more than the cats. Honestly, with its role in game, I like it more than the Iguanodon, the Cyno. I think I like it more than the Deinocheirus. Therizinosaurus is just cool, you know? And he's the only option without a more accurate Therizinosaur. I think it goes here for me. Yeah, I think that's where the Therizinosaurus goes. Torosaurus. I like his big feature scales on his back quite a lot. Colors are fine, acceptable. Patterns, not the worst. I do like how the patterns kind of change the look of the animal a little bit by combining the spikes, the scales there together into like extended stripes. It's kind of neat. It's really only this pattern that does that, but it's still kind of cool. I mean, the eye spot stuff here is probably just like about on par with the Styrac eye spots. It's really like just the same pattern for the frill. A little bit extra coloring here is fine. It's not bad. The tier ranking is the stream for tonight. Since we have a potential DLC announcement coming, we don't want to start a new park build quite right now. If it's a small DLC, it probably just drops next week, and we don't really have time to do anything interesting. Torosaurus. I think I ultimately like it less than the Pseudo, maybe. I like it more than the Chasmo, though. Yeah, I think I like it a little less than the Nasudo, but it's pretty close. I think we'll put it here, right behind the Baryonyx. Yeah. Triceratops. I hate this design. I don't think the Jurassic World Triceratops looks good. I think it's bad. I think the colors are pretty poor. They're mediocre. The patterns are awful. I mean, it's cool having like the stripes on the horn. Like having the keratin on the horn colorized like this is really cool, but none of this else looks good. Like the stripes are okay here at best, and at worst they just don't show up or don't look like anything. So yeah, these are modded. So the only alternate pattern we get is 1993. This is much better. It's still not a terribly accurate Triceratops though, but I do like the big scales here. I think honestly the Triceratops gets into exactly the same boat as the Stegosaurus and the Ankylosaurus. It goes here with these guys, and I think it's the worst of the three, unfortunately. Like this skin could be better. Like the Triceratops in Jurassic Park has a much more interesting color palette than this, but it's got dust on it to make it look much more brown. And there's hints of the blue coming through here. But we should really have like this really interesting like blue patterning on the face that the animatronic has, and we just don't get it in the game, and that's a crime. This skin could be better. Like the JP3 Anki and the Lost World Stego do a good job of capturing pretty much exactly what that creature looks like in the film, and the Trike skin does not. And I think for that reason alone, it's the worst of the three, and it ends up being downranked to there, which makes the Triceratops the second worst ceratopsian in the game, outranked in my ranking only by the Pentaceratops, which is an immense disappointment. But that's where it falls. That's how the cookie crumbles. Troodon, our only Troodontid. Good colors, good pattern. With good colors on the pattern. Like this is a solid little dude. I really like the red on the face. This pattern's great. He's not quite as interesting though as the Proceratosaurus, I gotta say. This is a high A tier design, I think. Yeah, I think he goes right around the acro for me. I think he's right behind the acro. I think I like that placement. Solid little dude. Propognathus. Big pterosaur. Color range is okay. We get different beak colors and then a little bit of splotching on the wings that they always do with at least the initial set of pterosaurs in the game. Kind of underwhelming, honestly. Like I feel like a lot of these colors don't do that much for me. I like the red. But yeah, like the beak color doesn't ever change. So the beak color never changes. So you always have the same beak color combining with the pattern color. And you can't influence that for a better look. Which is kind of weird. But it's not a bad looking design or anything. I like this more than the Geosternbergia. I like it more than the Sungaripterus. I think this is a low B tier design. I think, yeah, I like the Pterodactylus more. This is my... Yeah, I think this goes here. I think we'll put this right behind the Spinosaurus. Yeah. Hard one to decide how I feel about, exactly. Centausaurus. decent color options. Very bright crest. Get some other patterns here that do a little bit of work on the body sometimes. Sometimes they suffer from the issue of looking like the color palette kind of needs to be inverted. Never really used the Sintao. Yeah, I don't know. Sintao really doesn't do much for me. I think I'd rather use Corythosaurus most times. I think the Sintao suffers too, just for being like it lacks the vividness of the Allura Titan, so I'd always rather use the Allura Titan over this. And they fill a very similar niche of like a Lambeosaurine Hadrosaur with a big colorful crest. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the worst Hadrosaur actually, thinking about it. Controversial maybe, but I never use this. Yeah, we're gonna bury him down there in the middle of C tier. It's not awful, but again, C tier is just the dinosaurs that are fine. Hylosaurus. This does nothing for me. I like this color, but like, so what? The stripes are fine. I kind of like that look where like the stripe color kind of matches the bottom color, but he's got a weird face. He's just a worse version of the Mosasaur, if we're being honest. I think he just goes down here. I think I like him slightly more than the Leopleurodon because the skins I think are more interesting, but I'd rather use a Plesiosaurus in a park. Next, the queen herself, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Color palette options are okay. Could be better. The patterns are dismal. They're really bad. But we get a lot of really good film skins. I'm very fond of the Buckrex. We get the 2001 variant, the Doe. We get 2 variations of Rexy. We even get Big Edie, which is not awful looking. Yeah, we get the 2022 Scarred, and then we get even the feathered one if you want it. It's a very iconic dinosaur in the franchise. It's probably the most accurate dinosaur design in the first film, I think, maybe. I'm willing to be wrong on that, but I think that's true. But I also don't love it. But it's like, it has to be S tier, though, I think. I think the Rex is S tier. It's a good design. It might be the bottom. I'd rather use it over a Cat's. It feels like a betrayal of my dinosaur love to put it ahead of Iguanodon. But I think it goes ahead of Iguanodon because the Iguanodon skins kind of suck. Yeah, we'll put the Rex there. Velociraptor. This is another dinosaur where it looks pretty bad. Colors are not the best. The pattern sucks. What is this? Just the tiniest bit of striping? What the fuck is this nonsense? But well, ignore that, ignore that, ignore that, ignore that, because they're. I mean, I like Charlie. They're not the worst designs color wise, but the heads are bad. But this is what we're talking about. 2000 design, pretty good. 1997 male. Oh my god, awesome. This, much like the Para, is going to be ranked mostly on the merits of its film skins. Mostly based on the original JP design, which when you get the subtle coloring in the game here from the actual like animatronics and costumes and concept art, it's so fucking good. I love the subtle coloring of the JP Velociraptor. And I love the male 97 even more. I like the tiger striping. And I wish we had a decent like Hammond collection or Amber collection figure for this. But unfortunately the figures never really do it justice from Mattel. Velociraptor's got to be S tier. Just because, you know, franchise. I like it more than the Rex. I think on the merits of the Tiger Stripe and the JP1 design, it's ahead of the Sino for me. I think it goes there. I think that's where we'll put the Raptor on the basis of the film skins. Dilo's always been my JP1 carnivore of choice, but all three carnivores are good in their own rights. Ignoring the accuracy issues with 2/3 of them, of course. That's I mean, that's a little top heavy, but it's balanced by the bigger B tier here. I guess maybe we should balance this out a little bit more. Maybe some of these guys get moved up to A tier. I'm okay with the Baryonyx sneaking into A tier, actually. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. And we can even, like, do this. I'm okay with the Giga and the Geosternbergia going down to D. I don't really care for them. Okay. Werosaurus. Good range of colors. Plates that the pattern changes the colors on, and then the striping on the tail, pretty good. Solid Stegosaurian. This is, for me, right around the level of Kentrosaurus, I think. But I think it sneaks ahead of Kentrosaurus just slightly. This is what the Stegosaurus should be. Werosaurus's position here should be beaten by the Stegosaurus, and it's a travesty that it's not. Yeah, I think it goes right there in the middle of B tier. And last but not least, the Eutyrannus. Already starting out with this lovely Arctic skin, wide range of colors. Patterns are fantastic. Adding color to the face, the striping on the body. Fantastic creature. Also, possibly the best dinosaur in the game in terms of stats. I haven't run the net metrics for that necessarily, but it's a really good creature. Which skin is the best skin for the Raptor? Which one are you talking about? This is an S tier dinosaur again. I'm quite fond of the Eutyrannus. I like it more than the Dinochirus. I like it more than the Theory. It's pretty good. I've never considered myself like a Eutyrannus fanboy, but this is a damn good dinosaur design. Is this the best? Is this the best design from the feathered pack? I think it is. Actually, I think it go. I think this. We put this here. This is the second highest rated. Third highest rated frontier design. Herrera, Aloe, and then Eutyrannus. I think that's fine. Ahead of the Geolopterus. Yeah. Yeah, that's where he goes. I'm quite fond of the Eutyrannus. So we end up with kind of a narrow A tier. How do I feel about that? I mean, the A tier is not as depleted as D tier. It's probably fine. Like, the distinction for D tier being like the bad quote unquote creatures, I think it makes sense why that's small. Yeah, I don't think Torosaurus belongs in A tier. And then if we're talking about the division between S and A tier being like, the difference is 3 creatures. No, that's the tier list. It's settled. That's it. That's the final rankings. Best dinosaur in the game, Carnotaurus. I feel that very strongly. We've got fantastic movie, and the Toro skin is good too. The Demon Carno skin is great. The Fallen Kingdom design is good. Suffers on patterns, but it's still my favorite creature in the game. Herrerasaurus, my number 2. That also follows just my 1 and 2 in real life in general. Very big fan of Carnotaurus and Herrerasaurus in general. Followed by the para on the back of the Dominion designs. Yep. I'm very fond of the Allosaurus design and Allosaurus in general, so that gets slot number 4. Dilophosaurus. film design specifically brings it in at 5th. Dreadnoughtus at 6 is my favorite sauropod. That tracks. Eutyrannus and the rest of the feathered pack sneak in. All in S tier, with the Deinonychus being the lowest ranked of the 3, the other 3 being very close together. That tracks as well. Oviraptor sneaks in the midst there. That's good. Styraco is my next favorite herbivore after Para and Dreadnoughtus. I think that tracks. Yeah, I could see improvements to the Styracosaurus design. So I think that makes sense for it to be after the Dreadnoughtus. And then we get Coelophysis, Ceratosaurus, before we get some more herbivores. That feels correct. Ceratosaurus is definitely the thing that's jumped like immensely in JWE versus the films. Edmontosaurus is similarly awesome. Euoplo's great. Therizinosaurus, Velociraptor, Procerato, Deinonychus. Yeah. Yeah, that looks good. Well, if we were to make an S tier park with, say, 15 species, that would be, cutoff would be right there at Euoplo, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Weird that it's 11 across. But yeah, so the cutoff would be right there. So we would have a sauropod, a ceratopsian, and a chylosaurid, 2 hadrosaurs. We'd be a little overburdened on carnivores, but I feel like that's just because a lot of the carnivores have been given a lot of love. And that's not dissimilar from the canonical species list for the film version of Jurassic Park. We even get a pterosaur with the Geolopterus. Like, that'd be a viable park. Then if we added in another 5, we'd get, 3 more herbivores in the mix, some more small carnivores. If we went 25 species, we'd be getting into A tier, and that'd be a weird roster with like a lot of mid and large carnivores. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the carnivore designs in the game have been given more love than the herbivores. That's very unfortunate because I do like having a lot of herbivores in my parks. You may have noticed. It's just unfortunate truth that a lot of the designs end up being a bit bland. All right, well, that took way longer than I expected it to. We got 3 videos out of tier list ranking this stuff. And we'll have to come back and update this for future DLCs, I suppose. We can expect that eventually. Might not do it with every DLC. This might be the case of like, we wait for 2 or 3 more DLCs to come out if we get 2 or 3 more DLCs, which I think we will. And then we rank all those together in like a 10-minute video or something maybe. I don't know. We'll see.